What is up, YouTube family? This is AMK at Purple Sky 11. I am back. I had a break. I am revitalized, re-energized, and ready to get back into this. So from here on out, we are going to be digging into Detective Shelton's summaries. And his summary is really detailed. He's the one who went into the Elijah internet searches, the Wikipedia mystery, and the interview with the pastor about the Bibles. So we're going to get into some more really interesting aspects of this case, some more conspiracy-based ideas. I still have some more things to bring you about Dr. Sperry and corruption, but I figured after this long break, you guys probably want stuff based on Benoit, so here it is. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. That really helps get more eyes on my research, and share with anybody you think might be interested in this. The more eyes on this, the better. Let's get people talking about this again. There's clearly more to be discussed here. If you'd like to support my channel and help support the research that I do, there's a link in the description box to my Cash App, followed by a link to a YouTube video with very simple instructions for how to donate. To all of you who've been donating, I appreciate it so much. You have no idea how much your support means to this channel. I do want to add that anybody who donated over the month that I didn't provide any videos, I did refund your money because I feel that that was only fair. You got nothing for your donation that month. So although I appreciate it, I felt it was only fair that you should get something for your money. Alright, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into it. Let's see where this takes us today. Okay, so we're going to start with Detective Josh Shelton's summary, and this is going to be quite involved, so this is definitely going to need to be split up into more than one video. And so we're going to be repeating some information that we already went over in earlier videos, but I promise to bring you every word and show you every word, so that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to start here with Detective Shelton's supplemental, and then we'll go from there into other aspects of this case. Okay, so here we are at Detective Shelton's summary. On June 25th, 2007, I responded to 130 Green Meadow Lane, the scene of an apparent homicide. As I approached the residence, I noticed people who I later learned to be neighbors standing outside the home, speaking to deputies. As I entered the house, I first met with Detective Ethan Harper, who advised me that there were 3 victims in the home, all in different rooms. As I observed the crime scene, I saw a male child in the room above the master bedroom, lying on the bed. He was positioned on his left side, with his left arm under and behind his body. The child, later identified as Daniel Benoit, had a light brown matter coming from his nose and was starting to show signs of decomposition as the tips of his fingers and toes were starting to turn black. A Bible was laying on the bed near his head. After leaving the child's bedroom, I went to the basement, where a white male was found dead, hanging from a weight machine. The male was later identified as Chris Benoit. The third body was found in the office above the garage. A white female, later identified as Nancy Benoit, was found lying in a prone position on the floor, and her hands were bound behind her back. Nancy Benoit appeared to also be in a state of decomposition, as her face was discolored and bloated. After Detective Harper secured a search warrant, I assisted Detective Howard in recording the calls on the Benoit home caller ID. We also made a digital audio recording of the messages on the machine, which were later written to a CD for inclusion in the case file. Now, when I received these files, there was a folder labeled House Voicemail. However, the audio is blank, so I cannot access those voicemail messages. Someone commented on one of my videos a while ago that they work in data recovery and said they would be willing to check the file for me. I can't find that comment, but if you're watching and you'd still be interested in taking a look at it for me, please comment and I'll get these files to you ASAP. Thank you in advance. I assisted in searching the home for evidence. The only pieces of evidence I asked crime scene investigators to seize were the 2 computers in the home. Why just that? There was 1 computer in the office and 1 in the children's playroom. The gateway computer in the playroom was imaged at the residence using the in-case imaging tool. After the image was created, the computer was transported to the Fayette County Sheriff's Office evidence room. The office computer, a Hewlett-Packard, was imaged and examined in the computer forensic lab at the Fayette County Sheriff's Office. The gateway computer found in the children's playroom contained a 9.1 gigabyte Western digital hard drive bearing serial number WT667. The image of the hard drive was transferred to the forensic examination computer, where the examination was conducted. The primary purpose of my examination was to locate recent, in relation to the deaths of the victims, internet history, and email messages. After indexing all the files on the playroom computer, I was able to sort them into a list by date modified and discovered that the computer had not been used since March 17, 2007. That's more than a month. The image files were backed up to DVD for later use. The Hewlett-Packard computer contained a 200 megabyte MaxStore hard drive bearing serial number B420T6HH. An image was made of the drive using the FTK imaging tool. The image was indexed using FTK in order to make searching easier. Only Outlook Express email data files were discovered on the drive. All the data files are on the FTK report CD accompanying this report. The data files on the report CD are separated into new and old files. The new designation means the data file that was in use at the time of the murders. The old data files appear to be data files that were used until approximately January 2007. All attachments are included with the files. If there is difficulty viewing the files in the report, the individual .dbx files can be exported to any Outlook Express program. In addition to copying the data files, I utilized net analysis software to draw the internet history from the drive. The report CD contains two formats of the Benoit internet history. The .net file is to be viewed using the net analysis software, and the .html file can be viewed in a web browser. The last internet history discovered on the drive was recorded at 06/23/07 at 16:02. That would be 4:02 p.m. The web page that was viewed is a Wikipedia online encyclopedia page titled Elijah. The article was viewed twice on 06/23/07. The first time it was viewed was at 15:49:17, so that would be at 3:49 p.m. when a user typed Elijah into the Google search engine. The Google search returned with the corrected spelling of Elijah, and the user clicked on the Wikipedia page. The internet history shows the user went back to their homepage, foxnews.com, at 15:51, which is 3:51 p.m. And at 16:02 or 4:02 p.m., the Elijah Wikipedia page was viewed again. There was no further internet usage found after 4:02 p.m. During the week of June 24, 2007 and June 30, 2007, it was reported in the news that news of Nancy Benoit's death was reported on the website wikipedia.com. I contacted Sandy Ordonez at Wikipedia, and she advised me that on June 25, 2007 at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, an edit was made to the Chris Benoit Wikipedia page stating that Benoit missed the WWE Vengeance event due to the death of Nancy Benoit. The IP address that was issued to the person that made the change was a CSC Holdings Inc. IP address, 69.120.111.23. It was also found that on June 29, 2007, the same IP address made further edits on the Wikipedia website expressing remorse for posting the news of Nancy Benoit's death. The user was later identified as Matthew T. Greenberg and then I redacted the address because it really had this guy's address in here. So it was Matthew T. Greenberg of Stamford, Connecticut. The thing that gets me about that is that Stamford, Connecticut is where the main headquarters of the WWE is located. So I find that just a little bit too much of a coincidence, but anyway, Greenberg's apology included the fact that his speculation was a terrible coincidence. I contacted Detective Tim Dolan of the Stamford, Connecticut Police Department and requested that he interview Matthew Greenberg about his knowledge of the murders. Detective Tim Dolan informed me after the interview that Matthew was simply speculating as to the reason Benoit missed the event and described Greenberg as harmless. A copy of the interview was sent to the sheriff's office and is included in the case file. Detective Dolan also conducted a consent search on Greenberg's computer, and the report from that search is attached to this supplemental. And now, I watched this police interrogation. It is on YouTube, and I am going to do a video where I show clips of that and do like a reaction type thing and just point out things that seem a little off to me about that. On June 29, 2005, Detective Harper received a fax from WWE containing a chat room transcript from June 24, 2007. Jesus, guys, keep track of these dates. I mean, on June 29th, 2005, you received a fax of a transcript from June 24th, 2007. Do we have time traveling detectives here? I mean, this is so messed up. You have one job, and your job is to get the facts straight. And if you can't even get a date right, Jesus, it's just so frustrating. I know it's insignificant, but if they make these little mistakes, what other mistakes are they making? And I do have the copy of this transcript, but I'm still just going to read through here. On June 24th, 2007, at 20:41:47, so that would be 8:41 p.m., Gob the Illusionist posted, "Benoit's wife died." And then at 8:42 p.m., Maggie Crum writes, "Woman is gone." And then at 8:43 p.m., Gob the Illusionist writes, "Benoit killed his wife." And at 8:43 p.m., _Jupiter writes, "Benoit killed his wife." There was also information in the chat room that a wrestling reporter, Dave Meltzer, had reported that Benoit killed his wife. I spoke by telephone to Dave Meltzer on June 29, 2007, and he told me that he did not have any information about the murder, but people frequently reference him in wrestling news as he is a popular writer in the industry. I received the information for the users' IP addresses from Philippe at WWE, and the IP addresses have been resolved to the real users. And it did have addresses here, and I blacked that out. But it was Gob the Illusionist, who was Sheldon Chandler, Maggie Crum, and then _Jupiter, who was Mariando Escobedo. So Detective Shelton says, "I first spoke to Sheldon Chandler, a 20-year-old wrestling fan from Florida. He stated that he had read that Benoit was dead on other wrestling websites that he could not remember." How convenient. He admitted that there was a degree of speculation that went into the posting and that he did not have any information on the Benoit murders. He wrote the following email as an explanation of his actions. So this is from Sheldon Chandler to Josh S. at FayetteCountyGeorgia.gov. So this is to Detective Shelton. And this is Sheldon Chandler's explanation as to why he posted what he did about Benoit. So he says, "When I was on the chat room the night before the Benoits were found, I, along with others, were on the chat room talking about the pay-per-view, and around the time Chris Benoit was supposed to wrestle and he wasn't there, we all were talking about maybe why he wasn't there, and some people were making things up for why he wasn't there. Some were joking around for why he wasn't there. Some were trying to actually guess why he wasn't there, and others were making things up and trying to mess with other people by reporting their lies as truth. I made a joke, something to the extent that Chris Benoit killed his wife like that guy in Ohio. I think his name is Bobby Cutts Jr., the police officer. I said that just trying to say something outrageous and stupid, because all week long I had seen about nothing but the woman and her unborn baby killed in Ohio by her boyfriend/children father on the news shows. So I said that Benoit had done that too, but I was just joking around. I didn't actually think Benoit killed his wife, and I had zero knowledge that he had actually done that horrible thing to his wife and his son. To say the least, I was totally shocked when I found out the next night on Monday that Chris Benoit and his family was dead. And I was even more shocked and saddened to find out late Monday night that Chris May had killed his family and himself. And I didn't want to believe Chris Benoit had committed 2 murders and a suicide until I saw it on the news Tuesday that he did actually kill his wife, son, and then himself. The top part I just wrote, but the bottom part is a more detailed account that I wrote and sent to you on the late night/early morning that you called and emailed me. I sent you 2 emails last week and they said message sent, but I guess they didn't go through right. So if and when you get this email, could you please email me back letting me know you received my email? Thank you. That's weird that it didn't send. I'm just saying. You'd think that if you're going to be sending an email to police, you would hope that it would go through and they would get it. But anyway, on Sunday night, June 24th, 2007, I was on the WWE chat room because the WWE Vengeance pay-per-view was on, and it's usually at its fullest with people on during pay-per-views. Around the time that CM Punk was supposed to wrestle Chris Benoit for the ECW title, people, including myself, was wondering why Benoit wasn't there. Some people was really trying to guess why he wasn't there, but some were just making things up for why he wasn't there, really just joking around. Usually when people are joking around, I join in, and I always try to make up the most outrageous thing I could think of, and just all of a sudden, what came to my mind to type was that Benoit killed his wife like the guy in Ohio did. If I would have thought about saying that before I did, then I wouldn't have typed that. Okay, so dude, but you did think of it before you typed it, but you still typed it. Just saying. I may have been the first to say that, but honestly, I'm not exactly sure. When I'm in the chat room, I just mainly BS. So I don't remember much of what is said or who said what in order. I don't believe, though, that I was the first one that said she died, though I may be wrong about that. I don't remember exactly what I or others said, but I do remember someone saying woman died in a car accident. Now that may have been before and or after I said what I believe I said. I'm not really sure who said what first. I remember later on during that chat that some people on there actually thought woman Nancy Benoit was dead, but I said something to the extent of that not being true and that no one knows what happened to Chris Benoit and why he didn't show up. A little after the match that Benoit was supposed to wrestle in but ended up being CM Punk versus Johnny Nitro, aka John Morrison, aka Johnny Elite, we kind of stopped talking about that match and Benoit and talked about what else had happened on the pay-per-view. As far as my knowledge as to why Chris Benoit wasn't there, I read on a wrestling gossip and rumors website that Chris Benoit had a family emergency and had missed a house show on Saturday night but was expected to be at the pay-per-view, but there was a chance he might not make it. From what I read, I thought Benoit had to fly home on Saturday night because he was on the road. But now the article saying why Benoit wasn't there may not have said he had to fly home. I just think I saw that, so it might not exactly say that, but it says something like that. But in this case, like most of what I read on the websites, I really just skim through the article. I don't fully read it, so I'm not exactly sure. The next day, on Monday, late morning, early afternoon, I can't remember, I checked the websites to see if I could find out why Benoit wasn't there, and to see if there was any news going on in wrestling. But there was no information on Chris Benoit, and no real news, so I didn't get back on the computer the rest of the day. I have a DVR, so I record WWE Raw. That way I can fast forward through the stuff that I don't want to see. And with the horrible Mr. McMahon death angle storyline, I figured I would do a lot of fast forwarding. And seeing this was a 3-hour special, I waited until about halfway through, so around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I started watching WWE Raw from the beginning. And when they showed the picture of Chris Benoit and said he was dead, and then Vince McMahon was in the ring and said Chris, Nancy, and Daniel Benoit was found dead, was the very first time that I heard of anything happening to any of the Benoit family. After I watched Raw between 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time And there's an exclamation point there. I think that's supposed to be 12 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, so between 11:30 and 12. He says, I changed the channel to ESPN News/ESPN News to see what was going on in sports that night. And on their scrolling bottom line, under a section called News, it said something like, WWE wrestler Chris Benoit and his wife and son were found dead, and it was being investigated as a murder-suicide. And that was the very first time that I heard anything about a murder, and it wasn't until the next day, on Tuesday, that I saw on MSNBC that it was believed that Chris may have killed his wife, son, and then himself. Ever since then, any information I've seen, heard, and read about the Benoit case has been on MSNBC, WWE.com, Raja.com, and WrestlingInc.com. So the thing about the chat room was me and others just joking around and messing around like we do every time I'm on there, which we say a lot of crazy and untruthful things on there, and very unfortunately, this Benoit stuff we talked about was really the first thing we talked about on there that turned out to be true. And as far as I know, along with no one else on the chat room that night, knew what had happened. And it didn't make sense to me at first how Chris Benoit did what it seems like he did, because I thought he left the road right before an event on Saturday night to fly home for an emergency, which turned out to be wrong. I actually turned out to be maybe one of the last people that are usually on the wrestling rumors sites and wrestling chat rooms to find out what had happened to the Benoit family, because I didn't find out until I watched WWE Monday Night Raw at around 9:30 p.m. on that Monday night, and I didn't know it was a possible murder-suicide until sometime between 11:30 p.m. and 12 o'clock a.m. later on that Monday night when I saw it on ESPN News. And to be honest, I personally wouldn't believe Chris Benoit killed his family and himself until I saw it on MSNBC, and I was very shocked that such a thing like that would happen. I had no prior knowledge of what had happened and had no way to know, and if I did, I would have probably have called 911 as soon as I did and not write it on a chat room. Probably, dude? You probably would have? Alright. I said what I said because that's something I would normally say and see people say on the WWE chat rooms. So it's something that you would normally say, that somebody's dead when you don't know? Oh my. Anyway. Sheldon goes on to write, that's just something that I would normally say and see people say on the WWE chat rooms, because most of what is said on there is lies about certain people dead, someone being fired, somebody switching wrestling companies, what's going to happen next in storylines, and etc. Sorry for the inconvenience, Sheldon. And that's an email from Sheldon Chandler dated 07/09/07, so July 9th at 4:35 p.m. Then Detective Shelton goes on to write in his summary, on August 23, 2007, I received a fax from Charter Communications responding to my subpoena. The WWE chat room user _Jupiter was using IP address 66.214.63.12. The subscription information for that IP address returned to Mariano Escobedo, and then I redacted the address. Phone number redacted. I called the number on 8/23/07, August 23rd, 07 at 10:25 a.m. and received no answer at the residence. I left a message. And then it goes on to show the chat logs from the chat room. This is the cover letter from WWE. And yes, this is their cover letter. It looks like maybe I could have scribbled that, but I promise you that I did not. You can see at the top it's dated June 29th, 2007, 9:56 a.m. And this is the cover sheet from Richard S. Herring, Vice President of Governmental Relations and Risk Management. So, governmental relations, interesting. And it says number of pages, including cover sheet 3. And then I'm not really sure what that says there. Something returns. And then here's the chat logs. Hello guys, I found some stuff on the chat server regarding the Benoit situation. The first indication of Benoit not showing up for vengeance comes in at about 5:57 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with this comment from a chat user. And we are right here. On 6/24/2007 at 5:57 p.m. Edge 316 says Benoit might not wrestle tonight anyway. And then after that, Edge 316 says credit WrestlingObserver.com. The word we received earlier today is that Chris Benoit had to rush home to Atlanta, Georgia last night due to a family emergency, and that he missed the WWE show in Beaumont. We don't have much for details at this time other than it is touch and go right now as to whether or not he'll appear at the Vengeance pay-per-view tonight. The last word we got was that he's expected to make the show, but it's not a guarantee at this point. We'll keep you updated. So, according to these police files, that was the very first mention on the WWE chat site of Chris Benoit not making the pay-per-view. That started about 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, which would have been before the start of the Vengeance pay-per-view. And then Philippe writes in this memo that the only reason why I thought it was of interest is because a later chat user will say they read it from a writer for this very same website, Dave Meltzer. The first trace I found of someone saying Benoit's wife was dead was at 8:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so according to Philippe, it was at 8:41 p.m. Eastern Time that it was the first time on the WWE chat that somebody mentioned Benoit's wife was dead. On 6/24/2007, and all of these posts are on June 24th, so I'm not going to keep repeating the date. And it was at 8:41 p.m. Gob the Illusionist writes, Benoit's wife is dead. And then Maggie Crumb says, woman is gone. And then at 8:43 p.m., Gob the Illusionist says, Benoit killed his wife. At 8:43 p.m., _Jupiter says, Benoit killed his wife. And then after that, _Jupiter says, Benoit's wife is dead. And then right after that, _Jupiter says dead because he misspelled it up here, so he's just rewriting it. And then also at 8:43 p.m., Gob the Illusionist says to the _son, Chris Benoit is a murderer. And then at 8:44 p.m., UK Batista UK says, where you read Benoit's wife is dead. And at 8:44, Jupiter says, Dave Meltzer reported Benoit is suspected for killing his wife. And at 8:44 p.m., Buster says Benoit has family problems. At 8:44 p.m., UK Batista says, who's Dave Meltzer? At 8:45, Gob the Illusionist says, Benoit killed his wife. Like that, and then I redacted that word. It's the N-word, in Ohio. And I'm pretty sure the person that this dickhead, Gob the Illusionist, was talking about when he refers to the N-word in Ohio would be Bobby Cutts Jr., the former police officer who murdered his wife and his unborn child in Ohio on June 23rd, 2007. 8:48 p.m., Fighting _Rules says R.I.P. Benoit's wife, and then in brackets, I don't know her name. 8:48 p.m., Lil Kenny says Benoit's wife died. 8:48 p.m., Spanked _Monkey says Benoit is dead. 8:48 p.m., Lita KD says, is Benoit's wife really dead? And then it continues on to the next page. At 8:49 p.m., CM Punk Fan 2007 says, in all capital letters, Benoit's wife died. And then at 8:49 p.m., Thilger says, R.I.P. Benoit's wife. Then this memo says, I've yet to go through logs after midnight. I'll continue to go through the logs and keep you posted. Below are some of the chat users from the above post. And then here you can see these people here who were in the chat. And then after this, there's just some more documents. We have stuff from attorneys here in New York sent to Detective Shelton on July 3rd, 2007. And this is from Jennifer Janish, so I guess that she's from this law firm. It says, if the transmission is unclear, please call Ellen. And then it's a number there. And it says, message urgent. And then this note scribbled here on the cover letter, I believe that doesn't have anything to do with this memo that was faxed, and you'll soon see why. This looks like Detective Shelton's handwriting, as you can see from other notes written elsewhere in his report. And it says, Gob the Illusionist is Sheldon Chandler, a 20-year-old disabled who wrote the info on the chat room because of the police officer in Ohio that killed his girlfriend. So I think he just scribbled this note on this page for his own reference, because the memo in this fax has nothing to do with Sheldon Chandler, who is Gob the illusionist. Instead, this fax contains correspondence here from these attorneys. This is to Josh Shelton regarding an urgent subpoena. And it says, "Dear Detective Shelton, we represent Bright House Networks, LLC, hereafter known as BHN, and write in response to the above referenced subpoena seeking subscriber information in connection with the above IP address. Pursuant to law, the account information related to that IP address is Lorena Martinez." And then her information there is redacted, and it just gives you some more information there. And it says, "We do not make any representations as to the identity of the individual who actually uses the above account. We understand that this satisfies our obligations, and then please contact this number if you have any questions." And I think that what that means is that just because this is the name that is attached to this account at the IP address, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the identity of the individual who posted that certain post. And then we have a subpoena for a grand jury. I talked about this in some of my earlier videos. I can't remember which one. I'll put a link to it in the description box. But this particular subpoena is the one that was referenced in the fax correspondence that we just looked at. So it says, "To CSC Holdings, you are hereby commanded to be and appear in Fayette County Grand Jury on the 10th day of August 2007 at 9 a.m. and bring with you there to be presented certain documents, items, articles, or things to wit," and they want any and all subscriber information on IP address. And the IP address is redacted, but we know from reading the response already that they wanted information pertaining to this Lorena Martinez. It says here that they've been told by Wikipedia that this time is 12:01 a.m. So they want information about who wrote this stuff on these dates. And they want the registration and account information such as full name, date of birth, social security number, address, telephone numbers, etc. Failure to disclose could impede an ongoing criminal investigation. This information is to be used as evidence by the state of Georgia in a certain case pending before the court in the matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU LNU. And that, if you haven't watched my previous videos, that means that's an acronym that stands for first name unknown, last name unknown. So then it says, "Herein fail not under penalty of law this 29th day of June 2007. And then it's signed there, the judges. And so I don't know what's up with those grand juries, but that's interesting. And then here is a fax from Tim Dolan to Josh Shelton. And I'm just going to scroll down here so you can look at this information here. And then here is the correspondence that Detective Dolan sent with the fax, dated June 29th, 2007, to Investigator Shelton. Remember, Shelton asked Detective Dolan from Stamford, Connecticut Police Department to handle everything as far as Matthew Greenberg, who was the one who changed the Wikipedia page to say Nancy Benoit was dead, and he did it before anyone knew they were dead. And this kid lived in Stamford, Connecticut, which is where WWE main headquarters are located, and I'll talk more about that in an upcoming video. So this is from Detective Dolan to Josh Shelton. "Dear Mr. Shelton, enclosed, please find copies of the documentation you have requested. Please note that we are releasing this information in accordance with the recently adopted federal legislation, the USA Patriot Act. Should you have any questions with regards to the above, please do not hesitate to contact me. Very truly yours, John Ma, Legal Assistant." And then here we have subscriber information for this IP address, which is Abe Greenberg, and he is the father of Matthew Greenberg. And then here we have just some information, just some documents where they were doing some searches on this address and the names that were associated with the address. You can see here that information. I don't need to read through it all, but I want to show you something. On this paper up here, they redacted the address right here, but they didn't down here. Normally, I would redact that off of there, but I need to show you something. You're not going to believe this. So, this kid who changed the Wikipedia page to say that Nancy Benoit was dead before the bodies were discovered, his address is 84 Matthews Street in Stamford, Connecticut. Now check this out. When you put this address in on MapQuest, 84 Matthews Street, Stamford, Connecticut, WWE headquarters address is East Main Street, Stamford, Connecticut. So if you were to drive from 84 Matthews Street, where Matthew Greenberg lives, to WWE main headquarters, you have less than a minute drive. It'll cost you 10 cents of fuel. And right here's the map. He's literally right around the block from the WWE main headquarters. So I'm wondering, did he overhear somebody that worked at WWE headquarters? Did he walk by somebody on the street and overheard somebody talking about Benoit or Nancy Benoit being dead? Or did Matthew Greenberg just pull this out of the ether and make one heck of a prediction and he just decided to change the page? What do you think? Leave a comment below. I want to hear what you think about that. But then here's the rest of those pages. And then we have another fax to Detective Shelton. Dear Investigator Shelton, Charter Communications Inc., hereafter known as Charter, acknowledges receipt of the July 3, 2007 subpoena for subscriber information associated with the IP address. Pursuant to your request, Charter investigated and was able to identify the following subscriber information. And now this is the information about Mariano Escobedo. And Mariano Escobedo was the user _Jupiter from the WWE chat logs. It says, please be aware that Charter's billing records from which the above information is obtained are subject to human error, and Charter cannot always guarantee the accuracy of such records. You should not rely solely on this information and should always independently corroborate the information Charter provides you with other information you have concerning the identity of the individual. It goes on to say, if you have any questions about this correspondence, please fax your questions to the attention of the law enforcement paralegal at that number. In any correspondence, please reference the 4-digit case number. And then we have some more information here. I think that they recently changed their address or their number or something there. And then it just goes on here to say, I guess they were charged. They had to pay $50 for that. The police did. And then here is just... these are the queries that they had gotten for this IP address, and as we can see here, that IP address belongs to _Jupiter, Mariano Escobedo, so you can take a look at that at your own time. Alright, that was Detective Shelton's summary, and in the upcoming videos, we'll take a closer look at the pieces of this puzzle that Shelton gathered during his investigation, and that includes the internet postings about the death of Nancy and Chris and the Wikipedia mystery, the desktop computer findings and the Elijah searches, and the interview with the pastor about the Elijah internet searches and the Bibles. But that's it for now. All links to articles referenced in this video, as well as a playlist of all previous Benoit videos, can be found in the description box. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell so you get notifications when new videos drop, and please feel free to share this video with anyone you think might be interested, as well as sharing any thoughts, comments, or suggestions below. And if you like what you see and you would like to support my channel, you can find the link to my Cash App in the description box, along with a link that will show you very simply how to donate. As always, thank you for watching, and you have been listening to AMK at Purple Sky 11, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!